The security guard's hand came up like a stop sign, and Tiana Brooks felt her stomach drop. "Ma'am, this entrance is for VIP guests only." His eyes didn't quite meet hers. They fixed somewhere above her head, as if looking at her wheelchair instead of her face. She'd rolled up to the Grand Meridian Hotel's glittering entrance, expecting resistance. Maybe a question or two. But not this. Not the subtle shift in his posture that screamed, "You don't belong here." The evening air hung thick with expensive perfume and the low rumble of luxury cars, and suddenly Tiana felt every eye on the red carpet turn toward her. "I have an invitation," she said, keeping her voice steady even as heat crept up her neck. She reached into her clutch, fingers trembling slightly as she pulled out the embossed card. The charity gala invitation gleamed gold under the entrance lights, her name printed right there in elegant script. The guard barely glanced at it. "I'm going to need you to use the service entrance, around back." The words hit like a slap. "Hey, beautiful souls, welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here with me today." Before we dive into Tiana's story, drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button because you do not want to miss how this night unfolds. Trust me. Now, back to Tiana. She stared at the guard, her mind racing. The service entrance, like she was staff. Like her wheelchair made her somehow less than the glittering crowd flowing past her into the hotel's marble lobby. A woman in a diamond-studded gown brushed by without a glance. A couple in matching designer outfits laughed loudly, oblivious. "There's a ramp," Tiana started. "Service entrance, ma'am. Hotel policy." That was a lie. She could see the accessible ramp right there, leading up to the main doors. This wasn't about access. This was about something else entirely, something that made her skin crawl and her hands grip the armrests of her chair. "Is there a problem here?" The voice came from behind her, deep, commanding, with an edge that could cut glass. Tiana turned her head and found herself looking up at a man who seemed to command the very air around him. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a tuxedo that probably cost more than her card, his dark eyes swept from her to the guard with an intensity that made the security officer actually take a step back. Adrian Corleone. She recognized him from the society pages. Billionaire tech mogul, single father, philanthropist, and, apparently, her unexpected savior. "Sir, I was just explaining to this woman." "She is with me," Adrian said, and the words rang out across the entrance like a declaration of war. The silence that followed Adrian Corleone's words felt like the entire world holding its breath. Tiana's heart hammered against her ribs as she watched the security guard's face cycle through confusion, panic, and finally, obsequious compliance. His hand dropped immediately, and he stepped aside so fast he nearly tripped over his own feet. "Mr. Corleone, I didn't realize, please, of course." "Right this way." Adrian didn't acknowledge him. Instead, he moved to Tiana's side, his presence somehow both protective and unassuming. Up close, she could see the fine lines around his eyes, the silver threading through his dark hair at the temples. He had to be in his early 40s, and there was something in his expression, a weariness beneath the power, that caught her off guard. "Shall we?" he said softly, gesturing toward the entrance. Tiana's mind spun. She should thank him. She should roll away and handle this herself. She should do something other than sit there staring at this stranger who just upended her humiliating evening with 4 simple words. "I don't need rescuing," she heard herself say, even as relief flooded through her. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. I'm aware. But that doesn't mean you should have to fight every battle alone. He paused, his voice dropping lower. Especially battles that shouldn't exist in the first place. There was something in his tone, genuine anger on her behalf, that made her throat tighten. She'd spent 32 years navigating a world that constantly reminded her she was different, fighting to be seen as capable, as equal, as enough. After the car accident 5 years ago that had stolen her ability to walk, those fights had only intensified. But this man, this billionaire stranger, had seen her, really seen her. "Thank you," she said quietly. Then, squaring her shoulders, "Though I do actually have an invitation. I'm Tiana Brooks. I designed the promotional materials for tonight's charity auction." Adrian's eyebrows rose with genuine interest. "Your TB Designs? I've been admiring your work all week. The campaign posters are exceptional, bold, emotional, impossible to ignore." Heat flooded her cheeks, but this time it was from pleasure rather than humiliation. "You actually looked at who designed them? I make it a point to know the artists behind the art." He glanced back at the entrance, where the guard now stood rigid, pointedly looking elsewhere. "Though I wish we'd met under better circumstances. I'm Adrian Corleone. I know." Tiana managed a small smile. "You're the reason half the people here tonight bothered to show up. The charity is the reason. I'm just the excuse." He tilted his head slightly, studying her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "May I accompany you inside? Not because you need it, but because I have a feeling the conversation would be far more interesting than the small talk waiting in there." Before Tiana could respond, a small figure came barreling through the hotel doors. A girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, with wild dark curls and a princess dress that had clearly seen better days. She launched herself at Adrian's legs with the force of a tiny hurricane. "Daddy! Daddy! Mrs. Chen says I can't have another chocolate fountain stick because I'll spoil my dinner. But we're at a party, and isn't that what parties are for?" The girl's words tumbled out in a breathless rush, her face flushed with indignation. Adrian's entire demeanor transformed. The commanding billionaire melted into something softer, more vulnerable. He crouched down to his daughter's level, smoothing an errant curl from her forehead. "Bug, we talked about this. Mrs. Chen is right. But, Daddy, how about this? You eat something that isn't chocolate, and then you can have one more stick. Deal?" The girl's face scrunched in consideration. Then she thrust out her small hand with exaggerated seriousness. "Deal. But it has to be a big stick." "Negotiator in training," Adrian murmured, shaking her hand solemnly. As he stood, the girl finally seemed to notice Tiana. Her eyes went wide. "Your chair is so cool," she breathed, moving closer with the fearless curiosity of childhood. "Does it go super fast? Can you do tricks? My daddy won't let me have a skateboard, but a wheelchair looks way more fun, and it has actual wheels." "Sophia," Adrian said gently, but Tiana laughed, a real laugh that surprised her with its genuineness. "It does go pretty fast," she told Sophia, whose name tag now visible read Princess Sophia Corleone in glittery letters. "And I can do a mean wheelie when nobody's watching." Sophia's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Can you show me?" "Bug, let's not," Adrian started, but Tiana was already demonstrating a small wheelie, tilting back just enough to lift her front wheels off the ground for a moment before settling back down. Sophia clapped her hands in delight, bouncing on her toes. "That was amazing! Daddy! Did you see?" "I saw." Adrian's voice was warm, but when Tiana met his eyes, she saw something else there. Gratitude, maybe, or recognition, like she'd just given his daughter something precious. "Sophia, this is Ms. Brooks. She's the artist who made all the beautiful posters for tonight. The ones with the kids and the stars? Sophia's eyes went even wider. Those are my favorite. I told Daddy we should hang one in my room. Then consider it done, Tiana said, surprised by how easily the words came. I'll make sure you get one. Sophia practically vibrated with excitement, then grabbed her father's hand. Daddy, can Ms. Brooks sit with us? Please. She's so much cooler than all those boring people who just want to talk about money stuff. Adrian looked at Tiana, and in his expression she saw a question. Not pity, not obligation, but genuine interest. What do you say? Join us for dinner. I promise, Sophia, we'll only talk about chocolate fountains and wheelchair tricks for maybe half the meal. Tiana knew she should say no. This was Adrian Corleone, a man whose net worth had its own Wikipedia page, whose life existed in a stratosphere so far above hers it might as well be another planet. She'd come here tonight to network, to make professional connections, to prove that her business could compete in elite circles. But something about the way Sophia looked at her, like she was interesting rather than different, like her wheelchair was cool instead of tragic, made her heart squeeze. And something about Adrian's quiet strength, the way he'd stood up for her without making her feel small, made her want to know more. Okay, she said, but only if I get to hear embarrassing stories about your dad. Sophia's grin turned wicked. Oh, I have so many. As they moved toward the entrance together, Adrian walking beside her, Sophia chattering away about the time her daddy accidentally wore mismatched shoes to an important meeting, Tiana felt something shift inside her chest. The security guard was nowhere to be seen. The other guests parted naturally, and if anyone stared, she didn't notice. For the first time all evening, she felt like she belonged. She had no idea that by the end of the night, everything would change again. But this time, in ways she never could have imagined. The Grand Meridian's ballroom was a cathedral of wealth and excess. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across tables draped in silk, while a string quartet played softly in the corner. Tiana had designed the promotional materials for this event, but seeing it all come to life took her breath away. Adrian guided them to a table near the front, prime real estate in the social hierarchy of charity galas. Sophia had already abandoned them for the chocolate fountain, supervised by a patient older woman Tiana assumed was Mrs. Chen, the nanny. She's wonderful, Tiana said, watching Sophia animatedly explain something to another child, her hands gesturing wildly. She's my whole world. Adrian's voice carried a weight that spoke of hard-won wisdom. Her mother passed away 3 years ago. Cancer. It was brutal. I'm so sorry. The words felt inadequate, but Adrian nodded, accepting them. Sophia keeps me grounded, reminds me what actually matters. He poured water into both their glasses. The business, the money, the galas, none of it means anything compared to making sure she grows up knowing she's loved, that she's safe. Tiana studied him, seeing past the tuxedo and the commanding presence to something more vulnerable underneath. That's why you stepped in tonight, at the entrance. Partly, Adrian met her eyes, but also because what that guard did was inexcusable. I've spent the last 3 years watching people treat Sophia differently because she doesn't have a mother, because our family doesn't fit their narrow definition of normal. I recognize injustice when I see it. Before Tiana could respond, a commotion near the ballroom entrance drew everyone's attention. A woman in a blood-red gown swept in, flanked by 2 men in dark suits. She was striking, tall, blonde, with the kind of bone structure that belonged on magazine covers. But it was her expression that made Tiana's stomach clench. cold calculation wrapped in a beauty queen smile. Adrian's entire body went rigid. "Who is that?" Tiana asked quietly. "Victoria Stratton." His voice had gone flat, emotionless. "My former business partner, and the woman currently trying to destroy my company." Victoria's gaze swept the room and landed on Adrian with laser precision. Her smile widened, sharp as a blade, and she began making her way toward their table with the inevitability of a shark closing in on prey. "Adrian," she purred, arriving at their table in a cloud of expensive perfume. "How lovely to see you here. Supporting charity, so very noble." Her eyes flicked to Tiana, dismissive, before returning to Adrian. "We need to talk, privately." "We have nothing to discuss, Victoria." "Oh, I think we do." She pulled out her phone, tapped the screen, and turned it toward him. "Especially about this." Tiana couldn't see the screen clearly, but she watched the color drain from Adrian's face. His jaw clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping beneath his skin. "Where did you get that?" His voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried enough menace to make Victoria's companions shift uncomfortably. "Does it matter?" Victoria's smile turned triumphant. "The question is, what are you willing to do to keep it from going public? Because I'm thinking, oh, let's say a controlling interest in Corleone Technologies. Sign over 51%, and this disappears forever." Adrian stood slowly, and despite the civilized setting, Tiana felt violence crackling in the air between them. "You're blackmailing me." "I'm presenting you with options." Victoria tucked her phone away. "You have until midnight tonight to decide. After that, I send this to every major news outlet, every board member, every investor. Your company's reputation will be destroyed by morning. Your daughter will grow up knowing her father as a fraud." She turned to leave, then paused, glancing back at Tiana with mock sympathy. "Oh, and Adrian? I'd be careful about the company you keep. People might get the wrong impression." The moment she was gone, Adrian sat back down heavily, his head in his hands. Around them, the gala continued, people laughing, champagne flowing, blissfully unaware of the bomb that had just detonated at table 7. "Adrian?" Tiana reached out instinctively, then stopped, unsure if her touch would be welcome. "What just happened?" He looked up, and the devastation in his eyes made her heart crack. 5 years ago, before my wife got sick, I made a mistake. A business deal that wasn't entirely legal. Nothing violent, no one was hurt, but the paperwork was falsified. I was desperate. We needed money for experimental treatments, and insurance wouldn't cover them. So I cut corners. And Victoria knows. She has proof. Documents with my signature, financial records, everything. If that goes public..." He glanced toward Sophia, still happily talking with other children by the dessert table. "I could face criminal charges, prison time. My daughter would lose both her parents." Tiana's mind raced. She'd built her business from nothing, navigating obstacles and prejudice at every turn. She understood desperation, understood making impossible choices. But this was beyond anything in her experience. "There has to be another way," she said firmly. "Blackmail only works if you let it." "You don't understand." "Then explain it to me." She leaned forward, her voice urgent. "Because from where I'm sitting, Victoria just made a crucial mistake. She showed her hand. She gave you until midnight, which means she needs something from you fast. That's leverage, Adrian. That's weakness." He stared at her like she'd just spoken a foreign language. You're suggesting I fight back? I'm suggesting you don't roll over for someone trying to steal your life's work. Tiana pulled out her phone. I know people, graphic designers, yes, but also hackers, digital forensics experts, lawyers who work with small businesses and know every loophole in existence. Let me make some calls. Why would you help me? You don't even know me. The question hung between them, heavy with unspoken implications. Tiana thought about the security guard's hand coming up like a barrier. She thought about Adrian's 4 words that had changed her entire evening. She thought about Sophia's genuine delight in her wheelchair, the absence of pity or judgment. Because tonight, you saw me when everyone else looked away, she said quietly. Because you stood up when you didn't have to. And because... She hesitated, then pushed forward. Because I'm tired of people like Victoria Stratton thinking they can take whatever they want just because they have power. Before you keep reading, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And comment below. Do you think Tiana can help Adrian fight back? I want to hear your theories. Adrian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his face went even paler. It's from an unknown number. A video file. Don't open it yet. Tiana's mind was already working through possibilities. First, tell me, who else knew about that deal 5 years ago? Who else had access to those documents? Just my CFO at the time, Richard Luca. But he died 2 years ago in a car accident. Adrian stopped, his eyes widening. Unless it wasn't an accident, Tiana finished. Unless Victoria's been planning this for a long time. And if she killed to get those documents. They locked eyes, and in that moment, everything changed. This wasn't just about blackmail anymore. This was about murder, conspiracy, and a woman who would stop at nothing to get what she wanted. We need to get Sophia somewhere safe, Adrian said, already standing. If Victoria's capable of killing Richard, a scream cut through the ballroom. Everyone turned to see a security guard, not the one from the entrance, someone new, moving rapidly towards Sophia. He was speaking into a radio, his other hand reaching for the little girl who had suddenly frozen, chocolate-covered strawberry, halfway to her mouth. Adrian was already running, but Tiana was faster, her wheelchair cutting through the crowd with precision, born of years of practice. She reached Sophia first, positioning herself between the girl and the guard. She's with me, Tiana said, echoing Adrian's words from earlier, but this time with an edge of steel. The guard stopped, confused. Ma'am, I have orders to... To what? Adrian arrived breathless, scooping Sophia into his arms. Who sent you? The guard's radio crackled. A woman's voice, Victoria's voice, came through crystal clear. Bring the girl to the service elevator. Now. The entire ballroom had gone silent. Everyone was watching. And in that moment, Tiana realized with horrifying clarity that Victoria hadn't just planned to blackmail Adrian. She'd planned to take everything from him, including his daughter. The guard's hand moved toward his hip, toward a weapon, and Tiana acted on pure instinct. She rolled forward, ramming her wheelchair into his legs with enough force to knock him off balance. He stumbled backward, cursing, and Adrian was already moving. Sophia clutched tight against his chest. Go! Tiana shouted. The ballroom erupted into chaos. Guests screamed, some diving for cover, others pulling out phones to record. Mrs. Chen appeared from nowhere, her elderly frame moving with surprising speed as she helped shield Sophia. More security guards, Victoria's people, were converging from multiple entrances. Adrian's eyes met Tiana's across the panicked crowd. In that split second, she saw him making a calculation, weighing options. Then he made his choice. Come with us, he said, reaching for her wheelchair. Please. She didn't hesitate. Whatever was happening, she was already involved. The moment she'd put herself between Sophia and that guard, she'd crossed a line there was no coming back from. They moved fast, Adrian pushing her wheelchair with one hand, while carrying Sophia with the other, Mrs. Chen running alongside. They burst through a service door that Adrian seemed to know by heart, into a narrow corridor lined with catering supplies and industrial equipment. "There's a private elevator," Adrian said, breathing hard. "My company renovated this hotel 2 years ago. I know the layout. Every hidden exit, every security blind spot." "Daddy, I'm scared," Sophia whimpered against his shoulder, her princess dress crumpled and chocolate-stained. "I know, Bug, but we're going to be okay. I promise." They reached the elevator, an old freight lift that creaked ominously as the doors opened. The moment they were inside, Adrian slammed the emergency stop button, and the elevator shuddered to a halt between floors. "Why are we stopping?" Mrs. Chen asked, her accent thick with fear. "Because we need to think." Adrian set Sophia down carefully, and the little girl immediately went to Tiana, climbing into her lap like they'd known each other for years instead of hours. Tiana wrapped her arms around the trembling child automatically, feeling the rapid beat of her small heart. Adrian pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. "I'm calling my head of security. The real one, not whoever Victoria's paid off tonight." He paused, listening, then his face darkened. "It's going straight to voicemail. She's blocking my calls somehow." "She can do that?" Tiana asked. "If she has access to my company's systems, she can do a lot of things." Adrian ran his hand through his hair, destroying its perfect styling. "This isn't just about blackmail. She's staging some kind of hostile takeover, public kidnapping attempt, making me look unstable or dangerous. It would give the board justification to remove me immediately." Tiana's mind raced, piecing together the strategy. "And once you're out, she steps in as the logical replacement. The concerned former partner who tried to save the company from your erratic behavior." "Exactly." Adrian crouched down to Sophia's level. "Bug, I need you to be very brave right now. We're going to play a game, okay? Like hide and seek, but more important." Sophia nodded, her lower lip trembling. "Is the scary lady trying to hurt us? I won't let anyone hurt you. Ever." Adrian kissed her forehead. "I promise." Mrs. Chen spoke up, her voice steadier now. "Mr. Corleone, my daughter works for Channel 7 News. If we can get a message to her, she can broadcast what's really happening here tonight. Public pressure might force Victoria to back down." "It's worth a shot." Adrian looked at Tiana. "Can your hacker friends break through a communications blackout?" "Let me try." Tiana shifted Sophia gently and pulled out her phone. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, sending encrypted messages to 3 different contacts. People she'd met through online forums. Brilliant minds who existed in the gray areas between legal and necessary. 30 seconds later, her phone buzzed. "They're in," she breathed. "They're accessing the hotel's security footage right now, downloading everything from the last hour. And they've broken through the signal jamming. You should be able to make calls now." Adrian immediately dialed, and this time the call connected. "Marcus." "Yes, it's me. Listen carefully. Victoria Stratton has compromised hotel security and attempted to kidnap Sophia. I need you to get a team to the Grand Meridian immediately and contact the real police, not anyone on Victoria's payroll." He paused, listening. "I don't care what the board thinks. This is a criminal matter now." While Adrian coordinated their rescue, Tiana noticed something. Sophia had gone very quiet in her lap, staring at Tiana's phone screen, where one of her hacker friends had sent a preview of the security footage. "Ms. Brooks?" Sophia's voice was small. "That lady in the red dress. I've seen her before." Everyone went still. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Tiana asked gently. "She came to our house a few weeks ago when Daddy was at work. She talked to Mrs. Chen and gave her something." Sophia looked up at her nanny with confused eyes. "You said it was vitamins for Daddy because he was working too hard." Mrs. Chen's face had gone white. "Sophia, no, that's not—" But Adrian was already moving, his expression terrible. "What did you give her, Mrs. Chen?" "She said it was just supplements. She said you'd been working yourself sick, that you needed help sleeping." The elderly woman's hands trembled. I thought I was helping. She seemed so concerned, so caring." "What did the pills look like?" Tiana cut in, her voice sharp. Mrs. Chen described them, and Tiana's stomach dropped. She'd seen those pills before, in a documentary about corporate espionage. They were designed to cause symptoms of mental instability, paranoia, mood swings, poor decision-making. Over time, they'd make someone appear unfit to run a company. "She's been poisoning you," Tiana said quietly, slowly, carefully, building a case that you're mentally unstable. That's why she needed until midnight. She needs one more dose to push you over the edge, to make you do something publicly that would justify your removal. Adrian's hands clenched into fists. "How long, Mrs. Chen? How long have you been giving them to me?" 3 weeks. Oh, God. Mr. Corleone, I'm so sorry. I never would have. She showed me medical records, doctor's notes. She seemed so legitimate. "It's not your fault," Adrian said, though his voice was tight. "Victoria's a master manipulator. She would have found another way, if not this." Tiana's phone buzzed again. Another message from her hacker friends, this one with an attachment. She opened it and felt her blood run cold. "Adrian, you need to see this." The security footage showed Victoria 3 weeks ago entering Adrian's home. But she wasn't alone. With her was the security guard from tonight's entrance, and Richard Luca, Adrian's supposedly dead CFO. "He's alive," Adrian whispered. "Richard's alive. The car accident was staged. And he's been working with Victoria this whole time." Tiana kept scrolling through the footage. "Look, he's carrying a laptop. Your laptop, probably. That's how she got the documents. He faked his death, stole your files, and they've been planning this takeover for 2 years." The elevator suddenly lurched, beginning to move again. Someone had overridden the emergency stop. "They're coming," Mrs. Chen said, her voice breaking. "What do we do?" Adrian looked at Tiana, and she saw something shift in his expression, from fear to determination, from defense to offense. "We stop running," he said, "and we give Victoria exactly what she wants." "What?" Tiana stared at him. "Adrian, if you sign over your company—" "I'm not going to sign over anything." A dangerous smile crossed his face. "But I'm going to make her think I will. And while she's gloating, your hacker friends are going to send all this evidence, the footage, the poisoning, Richard's faked death, to every news outlet in the city. We're going public, Tiana, all of it." "They'll destroy you along with her," Tiana said softly. "That old business deal, the falsified documents, it'll all come out." "I know." Adrian looked at Sophia, still curled in Tiana's lap, and his eyes softened. "But my daughter deserves to grow up knowing her father told the truth, even when it was hard, even when it cost him everything." The elevator dinged. 3rd floor. They were almost at the lobby, where Victoria would be waiting with her guards and her ultimatum and her certainty that she'd already won. Tiana made a decision. "What if there was a way to expose Victoria without exposing yourself?" she said rapidly. "What if we could prove the documents were forged?" "They're not forged. I really did sign them." "But does Victoria know that? Or does she just have copies that Richard gave her?" Tiana's mind was racing now, seeing angles and possibilities. "If we can cast doubt on the documents and authenticity, if we can make it look like Richard and Victoria fabricated everything as part of their takeover scheme, the burden of proof shifts to them," Adrian finished, his eyes widening. "They'd have to prove the documents are real, which means admitting Richard's alive, which unravels their entire conspiracy." The elevator dinged again, second floor. "Can your people do it?" Adrian asked. "Create enough reasonable doubt?" Tiana was already typing. "They're the best in the business. Give me 30 seconds. She sent the message, fingers flying. The response came back almost instantly. A series of technical confirmations, followed by a simple thumbs-up emoji. "Done," she said. "They're creating a digital forensics trail that suggests the documents were altered after Richard's supposed death. Metadata changes, IP address tracking. The works. It won't hold up under serious legal scrutiny, but it'll create enough confusion to—" The elevator doors opened. Victoria Stratton stood in the lobby, surrounded by her security team, a news crew with cameras already rolling, and, most damning of all, 3 members of Corleone Technologies' board of directors. She smiled. "Adrian, I believe it's time we had that conversation, publicly." Behind her, Tiana could see genuine police officers trying to push through the crowd. Adrian's head of security was arguing with hotel staff. The entire lobby had become a circus, and they were at the center ring. This was it. The moment everything either fell apart or came together. Adrian stepped out of the elevator, still holding Sophia. Mrs. Chen and Tiana followed. The cameras swung toward them, red lights blinking. "You want a public conversation?" Adrian's voice rang out clearly. "Fine. Let's talk about Richard Luca." Victoria's smile faltered, just for a second, but Tiana saw it. "Richard's dead, Adrian. This isn't the time for your paranoid—" "Is he?" Adrian pulled out his phone, holding it up to show the security footage. "Because this video, taken 3 weeks ago at my home, suggests otherwise." The news cameras swiveled, zooming in on the phone screen. Tiana watched Victoria's face cycle through shock, fury, and calculation at lightning speed. That's fabricated," Victoria stammered. "Obviously edited. You're getting desperate, Adrian. Everyone can see you're unraveling." "Like you tried to make me unravel?" Adrian's voice was steel now. "With the pills you had Mrs. Chen give me? The ones designed to cause symptoms of mental instability? We have samples. We'll have them tested. And I'm betting they'll match chemicals found in cases of corporate espionage." One of the board members stepped forward, an older woman with sharp eyes. "Mr. Corleone, these are serious accusations. Which is why I'm making them in front of cameras," Adrian interrupted. "Victoria, you wanted to destroy me tonight. You wanted to take my company, my reputation, maybe even my daughter. But you made one critical mistake." "What mistake?" Victoria's voice was venomous now, all pretense of civility gone. Adrian looked at Tiana, and in his eyes she saw gratitude, admiration, and something else. Something that made her heart skip. "You underestimated the people I surround myself with," he said quietly. "You thought I was alone. But I'm not. And in that moment, as police finally broke through to arrest Victoria's fake security guards, as the real story started to emerge in real time on social media, thanks to Tiana's hacker friends, as Sophia squeezed Tiana's hand and whispered, "We won, right?" Tiana realized she'd found something tonight she hadn't been looking for. She'd found someone worth fighting for, and maybe, just maybe, someone who thought she was worth fighting for too. But the night wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. Victoria's laugh cut through the chaos. Sharp, mocking, unhinged. "You think you've won?" She pulled out her phone, holding it high. "I still have the original documents, Adrian. Your signature, your crime. One click, and I send them to federal prosecutors. You'll be in handcuffs before midnight." The lobby went silent. Even the news cameras seemed to hold their breath. Adrian's jaw tightened. Tiana could see him calculating, weighing options. This was the moment Victoria had been building toward. Checkmate, no matter what move he made. But then Sophia spoke up, her small voice clear in the sudden quiet. "That's Mommy's phone." Everyone turned to stare at the little girl still holding Tiana's hand. "What did you say, Bug?" Adrian asked carefully. "That phone. It has Mommy's case on it. The purple one with stars. I helped her pick it out." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "Why does the mean lady have Mommy's phone?" Victoria's face went white. "The child is confused." "My wife's phone was never found after she died," Adrian said slowly, his voice dangerous. "The hospital said it must have been misplaced during her final days." He took a step toward Victoria. "But you were there, weren't you? You visited her. You were so concerned." Tiana's mind raced, pieces clicking into place with horrifying clarity. "The documents. They're not on your company's servers or Richard's computer. They're on your wife's phone. She knew about the illegal deal, didn't she? She's the one who kept the evidence." "Insurance," Adrian whispered, "in case anything went wrong." She wanted to protect Sophia, make sure there was proof of why I did it. His voice broke. She was protecting me, even while dying. Victoria's mask finally cracked. She was a fool, sentimental and weak. When she told me about those documents on her deathbed, begging me to help protect you if anything happened, she laughed bitterly. I realized she'd handed me the keys to everything. "You stole from a dying woman," Mrs. Chen said, her voice shaking with rage. "I took an opportunity." Victoria's eyes glittered. "And I've spent 3 years building this moment. You think tonight's footage matters? You think your little hacker friends can save you?" She held up the phone. "This is the only proof that matters. And if I'm going down, Adrian, you're coming with me." Her finger moved toward the screen. Tiana acted without thinking. She grabbed her clutch and threw it, not at Victoria, but at the phone, knocking it from her hands. It skittered across the marble floor, sliding under the feet of the gathering crowd. Chaos erupted. Victoria's guards lunged forward. Real police officers surged in. Adrian shoved Sophia into Mrs. Chen's arms and dove for the phone. But someone else got there first. Richard Luca stepped out from behind a marble pillar, the supposedly dead CFO very much alive. He scooped up the phone with a smile that turned Tiana's blood cold. "Looking for this?" He held it up, then looked at Victoria with contempt. "Did you really think I'd let you have all the power? That I'd just be your puppet?" Victoria's face twisted with fury. "Richard, we had a deal. We had your deal. Where you got everything and I got scraps." Richard pocketed the phone. "I think I'll hold on to this. New negotiation. 50-50 split of Corleone Technologies, or I turn this over to the FBI myself. You go down for theft, conspiracy, and, oh yes, let's not forget poisoning. The two conspirators faced each other, their partnership fracturing in real time. And that's when Tiana saw it. Victoria's hand sliding into her clutch, pulling out something small and metallic. "Gun!" Tiana shouted. Everything happened at once. Police drew weapons. People screamed. Adrian lunged toward Sophia, and Victoria, her face a mask of desperation and rage, pointed the gun directly at Richard. "If I can't have it, nobody can." The shot rang out. But Richard didn't fall. Adrian did. He'd thrown himself in front of Richard at the last second, taking the bullet that was meant for his former CFO. Sophia's scream pierced the air. "Daddy!" Tiana was moving before she consciously decided to, her wheelchair crossing the distance in seconds. She reached Adrian just as he hit the ground, blood spreading across his white tuxedo shirt. "Stay with me," she said fiercely, pressing her hands against the wound. "Adrian, stay with me." His eyes found hers, unfocused but aware. "Sophia is safe. Mrs. Chen has her. You focus on breathing." Police had tackled Victoria, wrestling the gun away. Richard stood frozen, staring at Adrian with an expression of shocked horror. The news cameras captured everything. "I can't," Adrian coughed, and Tiana's hands were instantly red with his blood. "Tiana, the documents. They'll find them. Sophia will know." "Shh, we'll figure it out. Just breathe." Paramedics were pushing through the crowd. Tiana didn't want to let go, didn't want to leave him, but they needed space to work. As they loaded Adrian onto a stretcher, he grabbed her hand with surprising strength. "Thank you," he whispered, "for seeing me, for fighting for us." Then he was gone, rushed toward the ambulance, and Tiana sat there on the floor in her wheelchair, her hands covered in his blood, her heart in her throat. Mrs. Chen approached with Sophia, the little girl sobbing uncontrollably. "Is Daddy going to die like Mommy?" she cried. Tiana pulled the child close, making a promise she wasn't sure she could keep. "No, sweetheart. Your daddy is strong. He's going to fight. For you." Behind them, police were arresting both Victoria and Richard. The phone, the evidence that could destroy Adrian, lay abandoned on the marble floor. Tiana looked at it for a long moment. Then she rolled forward and crushed it under her wheelchair, grinding it into pieces before anyone could stop her. Some evidence was too dangerous to exist, even if it meant they'd never know the whole truth. The hospital waiting room smelled like antiseptic and despair. Tiana sat with Sophia curled in her lap, the little girl's tears finally exhausted into hiccuping silence. Mrs. Chen paced nearby, her phone pressed to her ear as she tried to reach Adrian's extended family. The clock on the wall ticked toward 2 a.m., 3 hours since the shooting, 3 hours of no news. "Miss Chus?" "Brooks?" Sophia's voice was barely a whisper. "Will you stay? Even if Daddy doesn't—" "Your daddy is going to be fine," Tiana said firmly, though her own heart was breaking. "And yes, I'll stay as long as you need me." A doctor emerged from the surgical wing, his face unreadable. Tiana's breath caught. Family of Adrian Corleone? They all rushed forward, Tiana rolling her chair, Mrs. Chen supporting Sophia. "He's alive," the doctor said, and Tiana felt her knees go weak, even though she was already sitting. "The bullet missed major organs, but he lost a lot of blood. He's stable but critical. The next 24 hours will tell us more." "Can we see him?" Sophia begged. Not yet. He needs rest. The doctor's expression softened. But he asked for someone. Tiana Brooks? Tiana's heart stopped. Me? 5 minutes, room 407. Mrs. Hammerchen took Sophia's hand. You go. Tell him his daughter is being brave. The hospital room was dim, machines beeping steadily. Adrian looked impossibly pale against the white sheets, tubes and wires connecting him to various monitors. But his eyes were open, and they found hers the moment she entered. You destroyed the phone, he said, his voice weak but certain. I did. Tiana rolled to his bedside. The evidence is gone. Victoria and Richard are both claiming you manipulated everything, but without proof. It's just their word against yours. You shouldn't have done that. His hand reached for hers, trembling. Now, we'll never know what else was on there. Messages from my wife, photos, memories. I know. Tiana's voice broke. I'm sorry. But Adrian, that evidence would have destroyed you. Sophia would have lost you to prison. And for what? A desperate choice you made out of love? It was still wrong. Yes, but Victoria stealing from your dying wife, poisoning you, trying to kidnap your daughter, that's evil. There's a difference. Tiana squeezed his hand gently. Sometimes the right choice isn't the legal one. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then, the board voted tonight. Emergency session. They've suspended me pending investigation. Tiana's stomach dropped. What? Victoria's accusations, the shooting, the chaos, they can't ignore it. Even without hard evidence, the scandal alone is enough. His eyes closed. I'm losing everything. My company, my reputation. And when this investigation digs deeper, when they start looking into my finances from 5 years ago, we'll figure something out. There's nothing to figure out. Adrian's voice was hollow. It's over, Tiana. Victoria won, just not the way she planned. So you're giving up? Anger flared in Tiana's chest. The man who stood up for a stranger at a gala entrance, who threw himself in front of a bullet, you're just going to quit? I'm not quitting. I'm being realistic. He opened his eyes, and the pain there was worse than any physical wound. And I'm trying to protect you. Because when this all collapses, anyone associated with me will be dragged down too. Your business, your reputation. I don't care about my reputation. You should. You've built something real, something good. Don't let me destroy that. Tiana felt tears burning her eyes. You're pushing me away. I'm setting you free. Adrian's voice cracked. Go home, Tiana. Forget tonight ever happened. Forget me. Is that really what you want? He looked at her for a long moment, and she saw everything in his eyes. Longing, regret, fear, and something deeper that made her breath catch. What I want doesn't matter anymore, he whispered. Goodbye, Tiana. The machines beeped. The fluorescent lights hummed, and Tiana felt something breaking inside her chest, something she hadn't even realized had been building all night. She'd fallen for him, impossibly, recklessly, completely, and now he was pushing her away to protect her. You're an idiot, she said softly. Then she rolled toward the door, her vision blurred with tears. Tiana, get some rest, Mr. Corleone. Your daughter needs you to survive. She left before he could see her crying. In the waiting room, Mrs. Chen took one look at her face and understood. He sent you away. He's trying to be noble. Tiana wiped her eyes angrily. Stupid, stubborn, self-sacrificing. Her phone buzzed. A message from one of her hacker friends. You need to see this. Now. She opened the attachment and froze. It was a video file, recovered from hotel security. But not from tonight. From 3 years ago, the night Adrian's wife died. In the footage, Victoria entered the hospital room where Adrian's wife lay dying. The timestamp showed 2:47 a.m. Adrian wasn't there. He'd gone home to be with Sophia. And what Victoria did next made Tiana's blood run cold. She'd pulled out a syringe. Tiana played the video 3 times, her hands shaking. The footage was grainy, but clear enough. Victoria approaching the bed. The syringe glinting under fluorescent lights. Adrian's wife, pale, frail, barely conscious, trying weakly to push her away, Victoria holding her down. And then, minutes later, the flatline. "She didn't just steal the phone," Tiana whispered. "She murdered her." Mrs. Chen gasped, covering her mouth. "Dear God, we have to show Adrian." "No." Tiana's mind was racing now, seeing the bigger picture. "Not yet. If we show him now in his condition, it could—" She stopped, thinking. "Mrs. Chen, I need you to stay with Sophia. Keep her safe. Keep her calm. Don't let anyone from Corleone Technologies near her." "Where are you going?" "To finish this." Tiana forwarded the video to her phone, then sent copies to 3 different secure locations. Victoria thinks she's won, but she just made her final mistake. "What mistake?" Tiana's smile was sharp as a blade. "She thought I'd walk away." 20 minutes later, Tiana rolled into the police station where Victoria was being held. The detective in charge, a tired-looking woman named Sarah Connor, looked up in surprise. "Ms. Brooks? It's 3 a.m. What are you—" "I have evidence that Victoria Stratton murdered Adrian Corleone's wife 3 years ago." Tiana pulled out her phone. "And I'm willing to testify." Detective Connor's exhaustion vanished. "Show me." They watched the video together in silence. When it ended, Connor's face was grim. "This changes everything. Murder, conspiracy, attempted kidnapping. Victoria's looking at life in prison." She paused. "But Ms. Brooks, this also raises questions about Mr. Corleone. If his wife was murdered to get evidence of his crime, then he's a victim, not a criminal." Tiana leaned forward. "Detective, Adrian made a mistake 5 years ago out of desperation and love. Victoria Stratton has spent 3 years orchestrating murders, poisoning, blackmail, and attempted kidnapping. One of these people deserves prison. It's not Adrian." "The DA might not see it that way." "Then we make sure they do." Tiana pulled up another file on her phone. Character witness statements her hacker friends had compiled in the last 3 hours. 50 employees willing to testify about Adrian's integrity. 20 charities he's funded anonymously. A paper trail showing every questionable dollar from that old deal was spent on his wife's medical care. Nothing for himself. Connor studied her carefully. "You've been busy." "I don't give up on people who matter." Tiana met her eyes. "And Adrian matters. His daughter matters. Justice matters." "You care about him." It wasn't a question. Tiana thought about Adrian's hand in hers, his voice telling her goodbye, the way he'd seen her when everyone else looked away. "Yes," she said simply. "I do." Connor was quiet for a moment, then nodded. "Give me 6 hours. I'll talk to the DA, present this evidence. No promises, but—" She smiled slightly. "I believe in fighting for the good ones, too." As Tiana left the station, dawn was breaking over the city. Her phone rang, an unknown number. "Ms. Brooks, this is Jennifer Drake, board chair of Corleone Technologies." The woman's voice was crisp, professional. We need to speak, immediately. They met at an all-night diner. Jennifer was the older woman from the gala, the one who'd questioned Adrian's accusations. Up close, she looked exhausted but sharp-eyed. "I've spent the night reviewing everything that happened," Jennifer said without preamble. "Security footage, financial records, employee testimonies, and I've come to a conclusion." Tiana braced herself. "We made a mistake suspending Adrian." Jennifer sipped her coffee. "Victoria played us brilliantly, made us doubt him, made us act rashly. But the evidence doesn't lie. Adrian Corleone is exactly who he's always claimed to be. A decent man who made one mistake out of love. So you'll reinstate him?" "I'm doing better than that." Jennifer pulled out a tablet, showing Tiana a legal document. "I'm proposing an emergency board vote to make him permanent CEO with full authority, pending his recovery. No more probation, no more questions. And I'm recommending we pursue criminal charges against Victoria and Richard for corporate espionage and attempted hostile takeover." Tiana's eyes burned with sudden tears. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because in 6 hours of investigation, your name came up 47 times. Employees who saw you fight for Adrian at the gala. Police who praised your quick thinking. Hackers, anonymous ones, who sent us evidence that saved our company." Jennifer smiled. "You're the reason we looked closer instead of just accepting Victoria's narrative. So I'm asking, will you stand with Adrian when we announce this? Will you show the world he has people who believe in him?" Tiana thought about Adrian lying in that hospital bed, pushing her away to protect her. She thought about Sophia's tears and Mrs. Chen's loyalty and the choice she'd made to destroy evidence that could have condemned him. She thought about being seen, really seen. "Yes," she said, "I'll stand with him." 4 hours later, Tiana rolled back into Adrian's hospital room. He was awake, staring at the ceiling, and looked shocked to see her. "I told you to leave, and I told you you're an idiot." Tiana positioned her wheelchair beside his bed. "Adrian, shut up and listen. Victoria murdered your wife. We have proof. The police are building a case right now that will put her away for life." His face went white. "What?" She showed him the video, watched him break, held his hand while he sobbed for the woman he'd lost, for the truth he'd never known. "I'm so sorry," Tiana whispered. "But Adrian, this changes everything. You're not the criminal here. You're the victim. And the board knows it. They're voting to reinstate you today." "How?" "Because people believe in you. Your employees, your daughter, Detective Connor, Jennifer Drake." Tiana squeezed his hand. "But, Adrian looked at her, tears streaming down his face. "Why would you do this? Risk everything for someone you just met?" "Because sometimes you meet someone in a single night who changes everything." Tiana's voice shook. "Because you saw me when I was invisible. Because you stood up when you didn't have to. Because—" She took a breath. "Because I'm falling for you, Adrian Corleone, and I don't walk away from people I'm falling for." The machines beeped. The morning sun streamed through the window, and Adrian pulled her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles gently. "I'm falling for you too," he whispered. "And I'm done pushing you away." Outside the room, Sophia pressed her face against the window, watching. Mrs. Chen smiled, wiping her own tears. The darkest hour had passed. Now came the dawn. The emergency board meeting happened in Adrian's hospital room. Jennifer Drake had insisted if Adrian couldn't come to them, they'd come to him. 7 board members crowded into the space, along with Detective Connor, 2 federal prosecutors, and a lawyer Adrian had called from his network. Tiana stayed by his side, her wheelchair positioned close enough that their hands could touch. "Let's begin," Jennifer said. "We've reviewed all evidence regarding Victoria Stratton and Richard Luca's conspiracy. The vote is unanimous. Adrian Corleone is reinstated as CEO with full authority, effective immediately." Relief flooded through Tiana, but Adrian's face remained tense. "There's still the matter of the falsified documents from 5 years ago," he said quietly. "I won't lead this company under a cloud of criminal activity." "About that," Detective Connor stepped forward. "Mr. Corleone, we've completed our investigation. While you did sign documents that bent regulations, the money trail shows every dollar went to legitimate medical expenses. Given the circumstances, a dying spouse, insurance denials, experimental treatments, the DA has decided not to prosecute." "What?" Adrian's voice cracked. "You'll pay a fine for regulatory violations, but no criminal charges." Connor's expression softened. "Sometimes the law has room for mercy, Mr. Corleone. This is one of those times." Tiana felt tears sliding down her cheeks. Beside her, Adrian's hand tightened around hers. "Victoria and Richard, however, are facing multiple charges," Connor continued. "Murder, conspiracy, attempted kidnapping, corporate espionage, and poisoning. Richard's already negotiating a plea deal. He's agreed to testify against Victoria in exchange for a reduced sentence." "And Victoria?" Tiana asked. "Fighting everything. But with the video evidence, Richard's testimony, and the physical evidence from the poisoning," Connor smiled grimly, "she'll spend the rest of her life in prison." One of the prosecutors spoke up. "Ms. Brooks, we'll need your testimony about the phone destruction. While we understand why you did it, it was technically destruction of evidence." Tiana's stomach dropped, but Adrian interrupted. "If there are charges for that, they go through me first. Tiana acted to protect my daughter and me. I take full responsibility." "Actually," Jennifer said, "I think we can resolve this another way." She looked at Tiana. "Ms. Brooks, Corleone Technologies needs a new chief brand officer. Someone who understands crisis management, thinks strategically under pressure, and has proven loyalty." She smiled. "Interested?" Tiana's jaw dropped. What?" "6-figure salary, full benefits, and creative control over all our public-facing materials. Plus," Jennifer's eyes twinkled, "we'll make a substantial donation to disability rights organizations in your name. I run a small design company. I'm not qualified to—" "You orchestrated the takedown of a corporate conspiracy in one night using nothing but a laptop and 3 hacker friends," Adrian said, squeezing her hand. "You're overqualified." Before Tiana could respond, Sophia burst through the door, Mrs. Chen chasing after her. "Daddy, they said you're coming home." The little girl scrambled onto the bed, careful of his IV lines. "And Ms. Brooks is going to work with you. Does that mean I get to see her every day?" Adrian looked at Tiana, and in his eyes she saw a question much bigger than job offers. "Would you want that?" he asked softly. "Seeing us every day?" Tiana's heart raced. This was happening so fast. One night had turned into a job offer, a potential relationship, a complete life change. Every logical part of her brain screamed to slow down, to think, to be careful. But she'd spent 32 years being careful, being cautious. protecting herself from disappointment. And where had it gotten her? Alone, fighting constant battles, proving herself over and over to people who'd never really see her. Adrian saw her. Sophia saw her. They didn't see a wheelchair or limitations. They saw Tiana. "Yes," she said, her voice strong and certain. "I'd want that very much." The room erupted in smiles. Jennifer immediately started discussing contract details. Detective Connor excused herself to file final paperwork. The board members congratulated Adrian on his reinstatement. But Tiana only had eyes for Adrian, who was looking at her like she'd hung the moon. "I know this is fast," he murmured, low enough that only she could hear. "I know we've only known each other for one night. But Tiana, I can't remember the last time I felt this certain about anything." "Me neither," she whispered back. Sophia, still perched on the bed between them, looked up with a sly smile. "Are you going to kiss her, Daddy?" "Sophia!" Mrs. Chen gasped, mortified. But Adrian laughed, a real laugh, full and genuine. "Bug, I'm attached to multiple machines and have stitches in my chest. Maybe we save the kissing for when I'm not leaking." "Leaking?" Sophia giggled. "Daddy, you're so gross. You love it." He kissed the top of her head, then met Tiana's eyes again. "Rain check?" "Rain check," Tiana agreed, her heart so full it might burst. 2 weeks later, the news broke nationwide. Victoria Stratton convicted of first-degree murder, conspiracy, and attempted kidnapping. Richard Luca sentenced to 15 years for his role in the conspiracy. Corleone Technologies' stock soared as Adrian's reputation was not just restored, but enhanced. The CEO who'd survived betrayal, murder, and a hostile takeover. And Tiana Brooks, the woman who'd helped bring justice, became the face of the company's commitment to accessibility, diversity, and ethical business practices. But that night in the hospital room, as board members filed out and Mrs. Chen took Sophia to get ice cream, Tiana and Adrian sat together in comfortable silence. "Thank you," he said finally, "for fighting when I tried to give up, for seeing me, really seeing me." "You did the same for me," Tiana replied. "At that entrance. When everyone else saw a wheelchair and made assumptions, you saw a person who belonged. You do belong. Here, with us." Adrian shifted carefully, wincing. "When I'm healed, I'd like to take you to dinner. A real date. No conspiracies, no shootings. Just us." "Just us," Tiana echoed. "I'd like that." Outside, the city lights sparkled. Inside, something new was beginning. Fragile and uncertain, and absolutely terrifying. But also absolutely right. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button if you're loving this story. And comment below. Did you see that twist with Victoria coming? I want to hear your thoughts. 6 months later, Tiana rolled through the main entrance of the Grand Meridian Hotel. The same entrance where a security guard had once tried to turn her away. This time, she wore a stunning navy dress. Her natural hair styled in elegant curls. And this time, Adrian Corleone walked beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder, Sophia skipping ahead in a new princess dress. "Ms. Brooks, Mr. Corleone." The doorman, a different one, greeted them warmly. "Welcome back. It's an honor." The hotel had undergone serious changes. The discriminatory security guard had been fired. New accessibility training was mandatory for all staff. And tonight's event, a fundraiser for disability rights organizations, was being held in Tiana's honor. "Nervous?" Adrian asked softly as they entered the ballroom. "Terrified," Tiana admitted. 6 months ago, I was running a small design company from my apartment. Now I'm giving a keynote speech to 500 people. You're going to be brilliant. He squeezed her shoulder. You always are. Their relationship had unfolded slowly, carefully, coffee dates that turned into dinners, family movie nights with Sophia, long conversations about everything and nothing. Adrian had been patient with her fears, and she'd been patient with his healing, both physical and emotional. 3 months in, he'd kissed her for the first time. A gentle, reverent kiss that had made her feel cherished in a way she'd never experienced. 4 months in, she'd met his extended family, who'd welcomed her with open arms. 5 months in, Sophia had asked if Tiana could be her bonus mom, and Tiana had cried happy tears for an hour. Now, 6 months in, Tiana stood before a microphone, looking out at a sea of faces, some in wheelchairs, some with various disabilities, some able-bodied allies. All of them waiting to hear her story. 6 months ago, she began, her voice steady, I was denied entry to this very hotel because someone looked at my wheelchair and decided I didn't belong. That moment could have broken me. Instead, it changed my life. She told them about Adrian's 4 words. She is with me. About fighting for justice. About destroying evidence and making impossible choices. About falling in love with a man who saw past her wheelchair to the woman she was. I learned something that night, Tiana said, her eyes finding Adrian in the crowd. We all deserve to be seen, not for our limitations, but for our strength. Not for what we can't do, but for who we are. She smiled. And sometimes, the people who see us best are the ones we least expect. The applause was thunderous. After her speech, as guests mingled and celebrated, Sophia tugged on Tiana's hand. I made you something, the little girl said shyly, pulling out a folded piece of paper. For being the best bonus mom ever. Tiana unfolded it to find a crayon drawing, 3 stick figures holding hands, one tall, one small, one in a wheelchair. Above them, in Sophia's careful handwriting, My family. Oh, sweetheart, Tiana's voice broke. This is the most beautiful thing anyone's ever given me. Really? Sophia beamed. Better than Daddy's fancy jewelry? So much better. Adrian appeared, holding 3 champagne flutes, one actually filled with sparkling cider for Sophia. A toast, he said, his dark eyes warm, to new beginnings. To family, Tiana added. To wheelies, Sophia chirped, making them both laugh. They clinked glasses, and in that moment, Tiana felt something she'd been searching for her entire life. Belonging. Not because someone granted it to her, but because she'd fought for it and found people worth fighting alongside. Later, as the event wound down, Adrian led her to a quiet corner of the terrace overlooking the city lights. I have something for you, he said, suddenly nervous in a way she'd never seen him. Adrian, you've already given me so much. The job, your family, your... This is different. He pulled out a small velvet box, and Tiana's breath caught. Tiana Brooks, 6 months ago, you rolled into my life and changed everything. You fought for me when I'd given up on myself. You loved my daughter like she was your own. You challenged me to be better, braver, more honest. He opened the box, revealing a stunning ring. A sapphire surrounded by small diamonds, elegant and understated. I know it's fast. I know people will say we barely know each other. But I've learned that sometimes one night is enough to recognize your future. His voice shook slightly. Marry me. Build a life with Sophia and me. Let us spend forever showing you how much you're loved. Tiana's tears flowed freely now. She thought about that night at the entrance, the humiliation, the fear, the moment everything changed. She thought about every battle she'd fought alone, every time she'd had to prove her worth, every door that had been closed in her face. And she thought about Adrian's hand in hers, Sophia's laughter, Mrs. Chen's knowing smiles, about being seen, about being chosen, about finally coming home. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Adrian slipped the ring on her finger, then leaned down to kiss her, a kiss full of promise and hope and new beginnings. Around them, guests who'd noticed began applauding, but Tiana barely heard them. All she heard was her own heart, finally at peace. Sophia ran over, squealing with delight. "Does this mean we're officially a family now?" "We've been a family for a while, Bug," Adrian said, pulling his daughter into their embrace. "Now, we're just making it official." "Can I be the flower girl?" "Absolutely! Can I do a wheelie down the aisle with Tiana?" "Let's discuss that later," Tiana laughed, holding them both close, this man and this girl who'd become her entire world in the span of 6 extraordinary months. 6 months ago, she'd been denied entry to a hotel. Today, she'd found her home. Not in a building or a place, but in the hearts of people who saw her, really saw her, and loved her not despite her differences, but because of everything she was. And that, Tiana thought, as city lights sparkled around them and her new family held her close, was worth fighting for. Always.